Hey guys, Jay here and welcome to another cosplay tutorial. Today we're going to be working on the Soldier Sword from Final Fantasy VII. So a few things before I begin, I should get them out of the way now. This is the Crisis Core version, not the remake version. In the new Final Fantasy VII remake, there's one character named Roche. He's a new character, and he's the only one in the game that actually has a Soldier Sword. And it's different. So if you want to make that one, I'll just tell you right now how to do that. It's basically the same thing, it's the exact same build, but on the crossguard there's some like little S designs. I don't know, I'll post up a picture of the best thing I can find for reference. Just cut that into it and then the edges just round them off rather than making them square like this, and you'll be good. That's literally the only difference. Also, I made the handle brown. I have seen it both blue and brown in different cutscenes and different promotional arts. The more CG looking cutscenes, they look brown to me, so I made it brown. But it's just vinyl wrapped around it, so you can make it whatever color you want. So if you like the blue better, just buy blue. It's that easy. And then I've also seen these end pieces here on the handle, the top and bottom of the handle. I've seen that both silver and gold, so do whatever you want for that too. And finally, if you want to build this yourself, there will be a template available on my website, which you can get to in the description below. So with all that being said, let's get on to the tutorial. Like always, I start with a pattern which you can find on my website via the link in the description. All I need is half the blade and handguard because I can just flip them over to make a full piece. And having half means I can easily see where the center line is, which is needed in both pieces. For this build, I'm going to be using cardboard for the blade's base. This way I don't have to sand bevels into the thick layers of foam. Since the bevels start at the center in this sword, that would be near impossible to get right. You can make it look good with foam by cutting large angles and using a bunch of math, but I really don't have the foam to be wasting trying that out for the first time right now. This costs a lot less. I traced 2 full blade pieces, flipping the pattern over to draw the other side for each one, as well as tracing out the center line. Like I said, it's important, you need to know where it is. I cut the blade pieces out with a box knife, and then cut into, but not all the way through, the center line, and open it up with the back of a Sharpie. This makes it so I can now fold it in half on that center line. Then I tape both pieces together, pulling tight around the edges so it makes it look nice and thin. I'll also be using this wooden dowel as the main core. To make it stay in place, there are many things you can do. Adding foam sheets, or spray foam inside the blade, or even Gorilla Gluing it in place are the best options. Personally, I just shoved some scrap foam in there. And here it is all taped up, and you can see that it doesn't wiggle around because I have those scrap pieces of foam inside it. I move on to the handguard at this point, and just like the blade, I fold the template over to make the full piece. And like I said earlier, you will need to know where the center is. This is so you know where to place the soldier emblem later on, as well as where you need the dowel to be able to go through. I cut out 3 handguards with the center layer having a chunk out of the middle, the width of the dowel. I forgot to film it, but then I glued all 3 pieces together with contact cement. So now onto the soldier emblem. This is my only full-size template. You'll want to cut out the full outer shape on 5mm craft foam, and then the details on 2mm craft foam. If you're not confident in this, you can always just make the detail layer by cutting out the full shape but as the width of the details, and lightly cut the detail lines into that, and then use a heat gun to open those cuts up. It won't look the same, but it'll still at least work. Anyway, after I trace out the details, I carefully cut them out and contact cement them onto the 5mm bottom layer. To make the trim that goes around the edges of the handguard, I used some 4mm square dowels and contact cement them going all the way around the top and bottom edge. I used 8 pieces, 2 on the top and bottom of the faces, and 2 on the top and bottom of either side. I ended up adding the side ones off camera later on. Then I used the blade to trace out where I needed to cut the top of the guard, where the blade can sit so it looks like the guard is holding the blade in place. At this point I also contact cement the soldier emblems on either side of the handguard. This is where those center lines really come in handy. I drew center line notches on the top and bottom of the guard faces so that I could match them up with the center of the emblems, which is easily found in the middle of the details. Once they were in the right spot, I traced out the shape so I knew where to put the glue, and then contact cemented them in place. Now that the handguard is finished being built, let's finally finish the blade. Just like the Buster Sword, I used 2mm foam to skin the cardboard layer, contact cementing it on both sides. Then I trimmed the edges, badly. Yeah, I'm not the best at this, so here's what I did, but don't do it. I used Foam Mo EVA clay to make the edges look better. Use wood filler or something instead. The way I did it was a nightmare to sand and still didn't look very good. Wood filler works so much better. So now I can start working on the handle. I have some brown vinyl from when I made Cloud's harness pieces, so I cut a long thin strip and using contact cement, wrapped the vinyl around the PVC pipe, which is 10 inches long, though after I finished it, a longer handle might have looked better. Oh well. Anyway, after that I used foam dowels cut in half lengthwise to add some piping detail to the top and bottom. And then the one that's going to be up against the guard, I cut in half again to be 1/4 of a dowel rather than half. And I used 15mm dowels for the larger ones and 10mm for the smaller one. Then I used another piece of the same PVC pipe to make the pommel. I capped the end with 10mm foam and superglue it to the bottom. Once that dries, I paint it in 2 layers. The first layer is all black so that it's all one even base color. If you can, use matte paint, not glossy. Glossy is harder to paint over with another color. I just don't have any matte paints, so I have to deal with the annoyance. But it's not a huge area, so I'm totally fine with it. The final layer is silver. Just make sure that the vinyl is all masked off so that you don't paint on it. You may have noticed the painted pieces already, but I figured I'd finish talking about the builds first. I covered the blade and the guard in a few layers of Plastidip, then silver on the blade and gold on the guard. Sadly, I messed up the guard and accidentally got rose gold paint, which isn't right, so I had to wait for that to dry and go over it with normal gold. So I used gold acrylic paint in about 3 semi-thick layers to fix it, and I'm glad I did. Here's a picture showing the difference. For the gold strip that goes up the center of the blade, I first thought I could try painting it on. That didn't look very good. It was actually really hard to see, so instead I cut the shapes out of 2mm foam, painted them gold, including on the sides of the foam, and superglued them onto the blade. If you end up watching this before you make your own, you can contact cement this piece before you even start Plastidipping anything. I just didn't think of doing it this way at the time. And finally, it's time to glue everything together. I took off that thick layer that was on the dowel. That was just foam that was duct taped to test out for another handle a few months back. I didn't plan on keeping it on there at all. So I replaced that with 3 sections of tape wrapped around the dowel that will go in the PVC pipe to stop it from moving around. The 3 tape sections will be at the bottom of the handle, the middle, and near the top. Then I used Gorilla Glue in between the tape sections because this stuff foams up and that's going to help hold the handle on. Then I used super glue to attach the handle to the guard, as well as the blade to the other side of the guard. Then just mask off the vinyl and hit it with a clear coat. I actually clear coated it all before I added the gold strips to the blade, but whatever. Alright, so that was the tutorial on how to make the Soldier Sword from Crisis Core Final Fantasy VII. Now the really cool thing about this tutorial is you can use this on a lot of other swords. And actually my friend and I were talking about the Fate series, Fate Stay Night, Fate Zero, you know, all that kind of stuff. And he was telling me how it reminded him of Saber's sword, the Excalibur. And it kind of does. You just have to flip the guard the other way around. So you could use this as the base of that. Make this a little bit thinner, and then that's basically it. And then just do the details as you would on that sword. So you can use it for other things. Then you could even just make a normal straight guard and make any other sword. It's very versatile. So the blade, just make it skinnier and you've got different swords. Anyway, that's going to be it for this. If you like it, go ahead and give it that thumbs up, subscribe for more, and I'll see you guys later.